How's it going, everybody? Jordan the Wolf back at it again with the next part of What If Krillin Got the Buff Form. Alright, so if everybody needs a quick recap, okay, so for the prior fight, there was an interaction with future Gohan, Krillin, Tien, Piccolo, and Yamcha all ganging up together alongside the androids to take on Cell. And through sheer might and willpower, they were able to succeed. Badly injured, but they were able to succeed, taking out the bug monster when he was in a semi-perfect form. Now, anyways, on to the next part. So, future Gohan, after some days, after saying his goodbyes, would depart off to the future. So where does that leave us now? Now, for the 7-year time skip, the 7-year gap before the Buu Saga, a few things do change. So we do need to cover them really quick. Okay, so Goku is still alive in this scenario, due to the fact that Perfect Cell never came to be, and the Cell games never came to existence. As well as the fact that Android 16 was never destroyed. He was badly injured, granted, and a lot of his parts were busted, but he was not fully destroyed. So that being said, he is still alive. Vegeta is still in the rice cooker for now. Okay, so during the 7-year time skip, we would have a bit of a peacetime. However, during this peacetime, Goku would be training up Gohan due to the fact that he still wanted to train him, and he did not want him to slack. Although he does respect that Gohan has to study, he still makes Gohan use his free time during the 7 years to actually train up, so Gohan will not fall off as much as he did in the original canon. Granted, Goku is stronger than he was in canon due to the fact he's had stronger training partners and more motivation throughout the years. Especially earlier on when Krillin initially achieved the buff form and he saw the fight with Raditz. The fight they had with Vegeta, and in fact on Namek, the more motivation he had, as well as in addition to having a training partner in the gravity chamber with Krillin earlier on, Goku's actually far better off. So the fact he did not compete in the Cell games or heading off to Otherworld, yes, there will be some catches and there will be some caveats, but he is stronger initially than where he started off. And throughout the 7 years, he'd be training up Gohan, and they had both achieved Super Saiyan 2. But let's not just focus on the Saiyans. Let me cut to the humans real quick so we can see where they're at currently. So during the 7 years, by now, Yamcha and Bulma, granted, they had a lot of issues early on with their relationship. However, at this point, they would settle down, and they would start up a family. So Yamcha does get Bulma in this scenario. Although he is not as trained as much as the others, obviously. He is Yamcha. Although Yamcha would be training up his son, as he would have a boy in the scenario, that would be a little younger than where present-day Trunks is, but not by too much. I guess around the age of where Goten would be. Although the boy is clearly not going to be as strong as our Trunks. Anyway, so, also, Tien would be training up, of course, wanting to improve his own buff form, as well as the Kaioken. So he would be training rigorously within the mountains. Granted, not as rigorously as he was preparing for the androids, but due just for self-improvement and wanting to motivate himself, because he wants to compete with his rivals once more. So he'd be training up, and it would be increasing his Kaioken multiplier, as well as his stamina, greatly, as he'd be practicing obliterating mountains with the Neo Tri-Beam. He'd of course also run into the others throughout the years, although keeping to themselves mostly. He would be seeking them out occasionally for some sparring, just like Yamcha, Piccolo, and everyone else. Although the humans would slow down over the years. Now, also, Piccolo is stronger than canon, and he would still be training off somewhere. And would be aiding Goku in training up Gohan, especially when he achieved Super Saiyan 2, as he would still want to be able to aid him and not want him to fall behind too much. Now, the big sticking point and the big mystery. Where's Krillin in all this? This is the 7-year time skip, so where is he? Okay, well, let me give you the details. So, Krillin is currently making a relationship with Android 18. Although, just like in canon, he would get the relationship with 18. It was a bit weird, it was a bit bumpy. Just, after all, she needed some time. But they would start off the relationship just fine. And, so, Krillin would not just be slacking off for the 7 years. Although he would be married and he would want to start a family, he still wants to keep up with his training. Especially after the big threat of Cell. How he realized it took all of them together and Goku wasn't there. And he's thinking in his head, What would have happened if we were not able to handle him and if he absorbed 18? What if Goku wasn't enough when he came? What if we all died? It's a bit of a sticking point in his head. So he would begin training again. He would seek out his old training friends, Goku, Piccolo, Tien. But he would also be sparring with his wife here and there. Although 18's not as gung-ho when it comes to fighting, she'll still fight. But after a bit, he felt he had plateaued at some point, so he would eventually start seeking out guidance from Roshi and Goku as what to do in order to break through this next barrier. So, Goku knows Krillin knew the Kaioken, and there is Gravity Chamber and the Room of Spirit of Time, but those aren't always feasible. However, prior to the idea being brought up, also Krillin would undertake training 18 in utilizing the Kaioken. He had felt with her infinite energy engine that 18 would be able to best utilize the Kaioken technique going forward, to be able to spam it and hold it for infinite amount of time. So during the initial 2 years of the 7-year time skip, 18 would be learning this technique known as the Kaioken. How high multiplier? Well, let me know below, and we'll see. However, they would come back to Goku with the idea, who brought up, why doesn't he take him to Yardrat? He can take him to Yardrat and they can get much needed training they need. So they feel they're not as plateaued anymore. Okay, now I feel I need to explain myself for suggesting this during the 7-year time skip. Okay, let me defend this idea. Okay. So likely everyone's still undertaking massive leaps for training, and now they're not training as if it's a life or death situation. However, as I priorly mentioned, after the battle with Semi-Perfect Cell, all of them are still on edge and want the idea of self-improvement so that if another enemy comes, they wouldn't have to rely, waiting on Goku, as they handled it last time, but they want to make sure they'd be able to handle the next threat once again. Because if they slack off, and if another threat comes, that might be it. So, Goku will instant transmission 18 and Krillin to Yardrat, where they would meet up with Pibara, who we know in canon was the one who trained Goku, and for those who aren't caught up with the DBS manga, trained Vegeta. With that being said, for the next year or so, they'd be undertaking training in order to learn the instant transmission, refine themselves. Krillin finding meditation and standing upon the spike much easier than 18. And she even gets a little bit flustered. However, she would continue on with her husband. And after learning the instant transmission after a year and a half, they would soon realize there was other techniques to learn upon the planet. Now, which ones do they learn? Well, they each take their time to start picking up on these Yardratian techniques. They remain upon Yardrat for the next 2 years, training up and picking up on the techniques that they can gather. And eventually, once they were done, they would soon teleport back to Earth as they'd start their family. 18 would soon get pregnant, and Krillin would slowly be slowing down on his training. However, would take the time to help out the other Z fighters and helping teach some techniques, such as the instant transmission to Tien, Yamcha, and Piccolo, who would badly need these techniques. You know, not to leave them behind or anything. And soon, we end the 7-year time skip. We catch up to the modern age of the Buu Saga. Gohan goes to high school, meets Videl. There would be talks about the tournament, and initially he would still be hesitant to join the tournament. However, Goku would soon hear about the tournament, and alongside various other Z fighters, Gohan would be entered into the tournament in order to fight. Various members of the Z fighters would find this as a great opportunity to meet up once again and refine their skills to see where everyone's at. No one's aware of the situation that will be unfolding, however, as various members would arrive at the tournament grounds to sign up. Unaware to many of the Z fighters, however, just as brought up prior, various shady characters would be lurking in the shadows, waiting as the tournament begins. Obviously, certain fighters would no longer be there, such as Vegeta. And in turn, as well, Tien and Yamcha would also be arriving at the tournament grounds. So Pintar and Vegeta would be replaced, as well as Roshi being in the audience, meaning no one is watching Comment House, which will be in effect shortly. So, anyways, as the tournament carries on, initially it goes about the same. Well, not actually the same at first. As you see, the first match is actually Krillin versus Yamcha, two Turtle School alumni who were able to let loose on each other and spar in the middle of the ring. Initially keeping into their base forms, and briefly there'd be sparks of red torrents lighting up the arena as if red fireworks, before they reverted and then began to swell up briefly. Not all the way, not their full power buff forms, but the semi-buff form. As you all recall from the match of Master Roshi vs. Tien, he only bulked up slightly. So they would engage each other and begin to collide hand to hand, not wanting to go too all out, as this was within an arena and they don't want to destroy it. But the shockwaves when their fists collide would shake the entire arena as they'd fly into the air. Destructo Disc, Kamehameha, Sudokens, teleportation, brief torrents of the Kaioken as they charge at each other, as we'd see a massive Super Spirit Ball form as Yamcha would fling it towards Krillin, who would in turn fire off a giant Destructo Disc to cut it in half, as a large yellow explosion would fill the sky. Eventually, it would come down to fisticuffs on the ground once again, where eventually Yamcha would be knocked out of the ring. However, they would have had a great fight, as Krillin would proceed into round 2. Having said that, the remainder of the tournament for the most part goes about the same, including the Videl and Spopovich fight, where Gohan would get enraged, and then leading into the next fight, being with Kibito Kai, as he would go into Super Saiyan and would get stabbed in the chest, as Spopovich and Yamu flew off. Various Z fighters had flown off in pursuit after this. However, some would remain. Roshi would still be in the audience. 18 would still remain just like in canon. However, the rest would fly off. And to briefly cover over what happens for the remainder of the tournament, at the end, it would be the finals of Android 18 versus Hercule Satan. However, this Hercule Satan did not have the great publicity of defending the Earth against Cell, so he's not as well off or well known. He's still the World Martial Arts Champ, and he is here to try to regain his title. However, in this turn of events, he would not be able to sum up the money to try to bribe 18, which in turn, 18 would knock Mr. Satan out of the ring. And your new champion of the World Martial Arts Tournament is Android 18. Which would be a hell of a shock. Well, not really, for those who knew her. Hoisting up the big gold belt, and as well as receiving the prize money. I think she might get used to being the champion, seeing this as an easy payday. Cutting back over to the ship, and brief dialogue with Supreme Kai and Kibito filling in our Z fighters about the situation at hand. The revival of Majin Buu could be a threat to all of them. So departing to the ship, they would all begin to see, obviously, Spopovich and Yamu died. They began to contend with each of Bobby's minions. First, Krillin had stepped up against Pui Pui, as the room filled with 10 times gravity. However, he was more than used to that already. So Krillin, quickly bulking up and flaring up into a Kaioken times 10, would charge and smash his fist across Pui Pui's head and quickly took him out. Switching to the next level, Yakon would take on the combination of both Tien and Yamcha. However, absorbing the light, began to swell him up, Yamcha began to use the Spirit Ball alongside Tien's Kikoho to batter him from all angles, and eventually they'd take out Yakon fairly quickly. Bobbity would begin to get worried, but then a small smile formed on his face as energy was being gathered more and more. And a brief thing I forgot to mention priorly was when they brought in Gohan's energy from earlier, it was far more than it was in the original canon. While the original canon was about half of Buu's meter, this would be more akin to 60% of the tank being filled up, even close to 70%. However, as they descend to the final level, Goku and Gohan being there, Goku eager for a fight. Then a sudden coldness filled the room, as two figures were standing in the final level. One was a pink-horned man, wielding a sword, none other than the Demon King, Dabura. However, standing alongside him was a figure that shocked them all. Oh no, no way, that cannot be. It was a lone figure standing there alongside him, a shorter figure with spiky hair and an M on his forehead. Majin Vegeta is here. Alright, I gotta explain myself, everybody. So, why is Majin Vegeta here in this situation? I thought Majin Vegeta, you might assume, was still in the rice cooker. Well, so during the few years... Okay, to explain myself really briefly, it basically what occurred was, we had left the rice cooker originally at Kame House buried within the sands. But however, Babidi has been lurking within the shadows for the past few years, collecting energy slowly. And in which case, striking at the right time when no one was at Kame House, and would retrieve the rice cooker containing Vegeta to put him into servitude. He would heal him, and with the Zenkai being boosted to Vegeta, he would then take over the sand. Okay, I know, this sounds far-fetched. Like, no way Babidi just randomly runs into this guy. Crazier things happen, and I know, it sounds a little fanficky. I do apologize for this. But getting back into the situation, they'd see a Super Saiyan Majin Vegeta standing there with his potential unlocked by Babidi. Fully controlled, mind you, by Babidi in this situation. For Majin Vegeta is not as strong as his original canon counterpart, so he'd not be able to break the control Babidi has on his mind. So various of the Z fighters would start to see the situation at hand, as Vegeta and Dabura were there. And just like in the canon, as Dabura's going about, Piccolo would be turned into stone. Krillin would avoid it. However, Yamcha would not be able to avoid it, as he had to push Tien out of the way just in time, as Yamcha would also be caught and turned into stone. And then the battles had begun. Gohan versus Dabura, and Goku would be taking on Vegeta, all while Babidi was gathering energy. And that's where we'll be leaving off this scenario. And that will be it for this part. I hope you guys like, favorite, share, and enjoy it. I hope you guys subscribe. I'm glad to be back. Trust me, this part took a lot longer than I wanted to come out. Originally, I intended this to be out in October. However, due to university, I've been stuck doing my classes. I was unable to get it out in time. So hopefully you'll be seeing this by the time of November. Hopefully before Thanksgiving, whenever I get this out. I hope you guys stick around for the next parts. Tell me what you guys think below, whether or not you think I should have brought back Majin Vegeta for this part. Tell me what you guys might want to see in store. And yeah, I'll let you guys go. Jordan the Wolf, signing out.